Disclaimer. Everything I say in this video is 100% my opinion. This is not financial advice. I'm not a financial advisor. This is solely to educate, explain, and inform people on why I've come to believe what I currently believe. This is not endorsing or promoting anyone to act any way or do anything. All my opinions and thoughts are subject to change over time if I find more compelling arguments or theories. What's up, guys? So it's going to be a bit of a longer video, and this is going to be my opinion slash debunking on the belief that ICP would never be allowed to progress because there's too many large players against it. So I've seen a decent amount of questions and criticisms that Internet Computer Protocol will never be adopted because it threatens too many large players, especially in the cloud computing industry. And I just made a meme right here, and it's ICP, not just ICP, right, but ICP and crypto in general. I think when I say are the elite, I think much of crypto is, and when I say much, I mean over 95%, right? Like, I think this is heavily controlled to a point where the markets themselves are manipulated and they'll go up and down depending on the events just to look like it's organic, right? Like, let's say like a war breaks out. I think it's by design. You'll have markets crash, and I think most people will believe it's retail selling, but I think this is mainly initiated by the whales, right? And what I really don't know is the main agenda they're trying to do. I don't know the real agenda, right? Like, what is the real agenda at the end game for all of this? And I can't see that far out, but for the next 10 years, 15 years, right? Like from now till 2040, I think this is going to be the building, the restructuring, and kind of the framework for a new social era, right? And like, to go further on that, for people that don't know, there's a company known as NVIDIA. I'm sure many people have heard of it. It's a very large, very profitable, and they have extreme influence in multiple areas, especially with AI. And they made a new chip, I think 2 years ago or 3 years ago, known as Blackwell. And there, in that presentation, it said something like going into the fourth industrial revolution. And I think that's what this is, right? The only difference is that there's so many obstacles compared to past human history, right? Like the past industrial revolutions before this one. There's just different, it's a complete different society now, especially with the internet. So I think going into the fourth industrial revolution is going to be filled with much more gymnastics, mental gymnastics, and things you have to do just to kind of see where this is going and make your own real theory about it, right? So, but I think this theory that I'm making makes a lot of sense. I don't think things happen by accident at this scale, So, for example, this was last year, January 12th, 2024, that this was posted, and it's by Dfinity themselves, right? The uh, the company or the organization that is building the Internet Computer Protocol, the main contributors. And at Davos, if you do at Davos, right, like they do here in Twitter right now, you'll see that it's literally an account for the World Economic Forum. So the CEO of Dfinity was hosted here by the WEF, right? Um, it was January 17th, it seems like. That's the day he went there, and he had a panel. And the panel literally says, guys, here to stay, how blockchains are reshaping our world. So I don't know who decided that panel name, but if the WEF decided that, even if they didn't, right? Um, I just think that's funny. That's like they're kind of just they're it's so specific. Here to stay. This isn't a passing fad. And that's also another mainstream narrative on crypto that no matter which community you're in, people are up and down. Like conviction is just all over the place. You have everything in between, right? You have the epitome of a maxi, right? Which is like no matter what happens, this is going to go to extreme heights. And then you have the people that are like literally putting in maybe like $1 every week because they're like, no, this is gonna, I don't want to lose my money. And that's better than nothing in my opinion. But I don't know why you'd even invest in something if you're that unsure about it. And this is what I mean when I say you have to do your research. Maybe not on everything in the world, but you have to do your research, your own research. When it's your money, you're going to be the one investing it, okay? But anyways, I want to go back to why I think ICP and the broader crypto part. This applies to things like Bitcoin, Ethereum, Algorand, HBAR, right? HBAR, for example, is Hedera Hashgraph. I mean, their council, right? They have like kind of like their governance system, and their council have some of the largest names I've seen backing any crypto. So you can just look up the Hedera Hashgraph Council. I'm not going to do it here because I don't want to tab out from this presentation and make the video, kind of go off the topic, but let's get into it anyways. So, Davos, right here, I just typed in Davos, is a town in Switzerland that is famously known as the location for the annual World Economic Forum meeting. The WEF brings together global leaders from business, government, civil society, academia to discuss pressing global issues and seek solutions. So that seems pretty insane to me that Dominic Williams, which everybody thinks is the creator of a shitcoin, right? A lot of people think ICP is a shitcoin because of the price. And I just put here because this is further pushing my theory that these people want, the elite want, and I'm not saying the WEF is the entire elite themselves, like they are all of them. Obviously, this is a very complex issue, and I can't tell you the source of the elite, right? I don't know the source. I don't know if the elite are like a mafia, right? Kind of like The Sopranos or like Game of Thrones, where it's like this is a battle for power. Like if you've ever watched Game of Thrones, right? Just look at the leaders of each house. I don't know if it's something like that where there's still things that are being disagreed upon, or if this is more of like a cult, right? And they actually all agree on a main agenda. It's just that they disagree about how they go about it, right? I really don't know. I really don't know how it's run, but I see evidence that goes against the complete mainstream theory, which is that crypto is going to save humanity and it's going to free people from the grips of this economic system. I think that can't be further from the truth, because I don't think these people would, especially the WEF, right? There's a video by the WEF called 8 Predictions for 2030. And the first prediction is that you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. That's the first prediction. And we'll have a world of renting, and most things will be delivered by drone. So I think they're expecting you not even to drive out or have people drive anymore as this really gets automated. And those predictions were back in 2016. So here in 2020, right? I put now is the like look what the World Economic Forum posted. Now is the time for a great reset of capitalism. And this is in June 3rd, 2020. And it says the changes we have already seen in response to COVID-19 prove that a reset of our economic and social foundations is possible. So to me, that kind of like in my head, I take that as okay, they just saw how easily people adopted certain laws and lockdowns. Why wouldn't they be able to adopt this new technology, this new landscape with AI automating everything within a crypto blockchain and DLT systems? DLT meaning distributed ledger technology. It's pretty much just a different word for a blockchain. Um, but yeah, so now the WEF happens to, oh, look at that. COVID just happens to be like COVID just happened, guys, right? And that like you can take it two ways. Either this was orchestrated, either COVID was orchestrated for this, which is personally what I think. I think COVID-19 was a stepping stone or the gateway into the new era, right? Like Bitcoin started the initiation, right? That was the real game-changing day. But to get into the new landscape mentally and get people mentally prepared, or should I say demoralized, to accept whatever is going to go on, because the social landscape is already being collapsed, as you can see. Everything's going crazy, guys. Unless you live literally in your own bubble and you don't go on social media at all. And honestly, that's probably best for your mental health, all jokes aside. Like, just not being on social media at all is probably best for your mental health. Because things are only going to get crazier depending on what these people really want to do to get there. That's how I see it, at least. So basically, I have bullet points here just saying what Davos really is: meetings involving very important people. Like you guys see it right here. They bring together global leaders, right? So Dominic must be important to be talking there. So the WEF was part of Event 201, and I'm going to get into that in the next slide. Founded by Klaus Schwab, who many people consider an elite. I think he's more of a scapegoat, right? I think he's kind of like the thing to point at. So people think they have, like, the actual people running this, guys, would never show their face, in my opinion. Why would they? And then you have Well, this was in a video on YouTube, but I'm not gonna probably get into that. So here you have the John Hopkins uh, Center for Health Security, right, on this page. And you have tabletop exercise event 201. And the WEF and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation hosted this event, right? And it's literally what COVID was 2 months. As you can see here, it says October 18th they held this event. So it's literally what COVID, it was preparing for COVID 2 months before it happened. And that's just extremely coincidental to me. Too coincidental. When you compare it with this, right? Like, oh, look at that. The same people that hosted this event about COVID 2 months before it hit now just happen to have. So it's like I was saying, either this was, hey, we can't let any catastrophe, every catastrophe is an opportunity. But I think it's pretty coincidental and like, wow, they just happen to have a way to benefit with a landscape that they want with one of the scariest times in human history that everybody had mass confusion about, right? So while you have mass confusion about this, the same people telling you to stay home and take COVID seriously aren't taking it seriously at all. And this was from the very beginning. Like, this is from the same year it really started hitting, not even a year later, right? And I also find it telling that these two specific people, Joe Biden and Nancy Pelosi, they're both over 70, way above 70 during this time. And I'm pretty sure by this time in the year, we knew that COVID was deadliest to older people. So it's just kind of common sense, right? When I see powerful people like this going against the guidelines of their own safety and health, which makes no sense to me. I'm pretty sure these people would know more classified information than the average Joe. You get my point? So, like, let me get this straight. Nancy Pelosi is stupid enough as a human being that she's gonna walk into a barber shop despite all the guidelines being given to keep safe. And we have to be under the impression right now that this is a pandemic that nobody really knows how deadly or how fast it's going to spread and the real implications yet. But meanwhile, she's still going to go into a barber shop to get a haircut. And I think she said that the reason she did this was because the sign on the front of the door said you don't have to wear a mask. But that's completely beyond the point because it doesn't make sense to me that you're going to be smart enough and swamp enough, elite enough to be in the top of American politics, working with these companies, right? But at the same time, you don't care about yourself at all. You want to go out and get the virus and die. Like like she has all the money in the world. You could easily stay home and get a personal hairstylist. This is what I mean, guys. Like, you got to look at the common sense kind of point of view, right? And Joe Biden, for example, imagine if you had something like the Black Death killing bunches, like millions of people, thousands of people, right? And instead, what Biden says to Trump when Trump shut down borders from China because he thought that was where the virus was coming from, Biden just calls it nakedly xenophobic instead and plays a political game. So even if you want to argue this wasn't orchestrated, if these people are going to handle it this way, like you're already screwed as a society. But I don't think they're handling it. I don't think they're handling it in a stupid way. I think they're handling it in a way where they probably knew some information about this, like real information about what this was, and they just didn't have any real fear. That's how I see this. And this is just more, contradiction to the whole idea that this was a real scary thing, even from the average Joe point of view, right? Because you had it was 50-50, right? You had people either being extremely scared about this or not caring at all, right? So the people that didn't really care at all were doing stuff like spring break, and they were kind of met with backlash. But meanwhile, you had the George Floyd riots 2 months later. So I'm pretty sure this was in March 2020. And then 2 months later, you have the George Floyd riots. And I guess people just don't care about spreading COVID anymore because the guidelines were still in place here, right? COVID was just starting and you had global protests. Everybody was out on the streets. So, and I'm pretty sure there was a study showing that, oh, well, even if they were outside, because they were outside and the weather was hot, maybe COVID wasn't as spreading as much, right? But the whole point was to stay inside no matter what. We were being told you can't go outside for anything unless it's an essential need. So the point I'm making is people would easily destroy that whole fear, that whole guideline on either side of the aisle. It really came down to what you thought was worth going out for. And I'm just going to say this. I don't think if there was a genuine deadly thing that could kill you and you knew you were going to die if you got it at that scale, that you would just go outside and protest over something so useless like this. I wouldn't. I know I wouldn't, right? I just always thought this was a psyop. Like, if this really was something that scary, I wouldn't be going outside at all, as everybody should have. But that's if it was genuinely what they were saying it was, and I think all the evidence shows it probably wasn't. So this is just showing also again how powerful the WEF is, right? And there's a video of the CEO, the former CEO Klaus Schwab, talking about how he infiltrated a bunch of governments with a young global leaders program. One of these governments was the Canadian government. One of these people was Rishi Sunak, the former prime minister of UK, I believe, and he was big on central banking digital currencies, right? Which is, and you even have it here at the end, sometimes even being described as crypto friendly, Rishi Sunak, right? And the narrative was always that the government hates crypto. If the government genuinely hated it from day one, even back in 2009, to this day, you would still have no adoption of it. Imagine how hard it is to get anybody to follow something, especially the government. So I think they were always planned to. People think this is being hijacked, but I think this was always by design. So to further make my point on why I don't think the elite are really against ICP specifically, on the left here you have a tech hub being built out in Zurich, Switzerland. And as you can see here, Definity, right? Right here, is right in the middle of all these giants. So they're next to Microsoft, they're next to IBM, they're next to Amazon, they're next to Meta, they're next to Google's DeepMind, they're next to Apple, They're next to Salesforce. They're next to another Google headquarters, NVIDIA, Snapchat, Anthropic, OpenAI, TikTok, Copilot, right? Sony, Oracle, one of the largest providers in the world, right? Adobe, and I think they're set up beautifully for the industrial revolution, guys. I think they're set up beautifully for the next era in our time. And you have Dominic Williams here talking with Kimball Musk. And this is going to go into a theory I have about something larger, a partnership, I would say, being formed, kind of hints. So at this fireside chat, you also had HBAR. Hedera Hashgraph was at this event, I think. And this is where ICP and HBAR forged a new collaboration. So to just go over this quick, the partnership of HBAR and ICP involves exploring 3 specific use cases to blend HBAR's low energy consumption blockchain with ICP's innovative smart contract systems, which is known as canisters, right? Just think of ICP smart contract. They call it canister. And canisters are like smart contracts on steroids, literally. So just think of it like that. Think of regular smart contracts. What's a decent analogy? Think of regular smart contracts as kind of like a car or a plane or a ship, but it just stays in that state. Whereas a canister is kind of like a transformer, if you've ever seen that movie, right? Like they can transform into anything. They can walk, they can transform into a car, they can transform into a plane, they can transform into a boat, right? It's much more customizable and it brings extreme utility within that. So here you have the Utopia slide, which was a Dfinity deck they made. And it says bootstrap serverless cloud infrastructure in developing markets. When geography separates, data centers use Starlink, right? So you have Utopia, which is Dfinity's private cloud initiative, right? It's kind of like their program for private clouds. And here you have a cloud connecting directly to a satellite. And they also mentioned Starlink in here, right? So I think that's another hint. And when you combine that they partnered with HBAR at this event with Kimball Musk, Elon Musk's brother, who's owner of Starlink, right? HBAR is already working with the satellite industry. They have so WiseKey, right? Their Sealcoin project uses Hedera, and Hedera offers Internet of Things technology, right? Like transactions and post-quantum security for these companies with this specific program. And you have this in September 11th, 2024, the announcement of it. June 23rd, 2025, so this was just last month. WiseKey's subsidiaries, WiseSat, right? And Seal SQ, which is, I believe, is Hedera's part. So Hedera didn't partner with SpaceX, but WiseKey and WiseSat, they did partner with SpaceX. SpaceX launched their satellites, I believe, at a Falcon 8 station. I think I'm right about that, if I remember correctly when I read that. And it enabled the first ever DPIN from space and advancing quantum safe space communications. So what is DPIN? DPIN is a crypto term, guys. The D in DPIN stands for decentralized. And when you hear decentralized, you can easily think crypto. And PIN is physical infrastructure network. So I think it's kind of weird that HBAR partners or their technology is being used with someone that is partnered with SpaceX. You have the Starlink. HBAR actually partners with ICP. ICP has a slide with a cloud connecting to a satellite, and you have Starlink mentioned here. And now the CEO, Dominic Williams, meets with Kimball Musk. And I'm pretty sure Kimball Musk is very close to Elon Musk. Kimball Musk funded and helped. I think he was a board member for SpaceX for a while, right? So I think he has some influence on Elon Musk, right? And they're brothers by design, like they're already brothers, right? So that's already a big thing. And Elon Musk was criticizing NFTs because NFTs weren't on chain. And Kimball Musk just happened to meet someone that's wanting everything to be on chain. So you don't think Kimball Musk went to Elon? Elon, there's something that actually has NFTs on chain now. I know you were criticizing that on the Joe Rogan podcast, right? So, um, this just further proves the point that I don't think the elite are against ICP at all, and they want crypto to succeed. It's just that the average person, guys, you're just going to see all the headlines and all the rug pulls and all the crashes. But the way this is being developed is it's too it's too advanced for me to think this is just by accident, and somehow it just keeps adopting more and more over time. So I'm going to link the videos of Klaus Schwab because that's what I had. Who it's basically this whole like writing right here was for a video, but like I said, I don't want to tab out and I don't have the videos brought up, so I'm going to put in the comments. But Klaus Schwab is talking about, and this is like 5 years ago, I'm pretty sure this is in 2021 or 2020, and Klaus is referring to, or he's talking about putting the world online, right? On a system that cannot shut down. And considering you have this, right? He's talking about a great reset of capitalism. That sounds like an economic reset. And what has crypto always been about? It's always called about currency, right? It's always been about currency and tokenizing everything. And even the BlackRock CEO, Larry Fink, right? Larry Fink was on Fox News and he said the main point of Bitcoin was digitizing gold. So I think really what this is going to be seen as at first was currency solutions, right? That's why you have so many Bitcoin maxis that say there's Bitcoin and then there's everything else because everything else is just a shitcoin altcoin. But they've been psyoped, and what this really is going to be is a multi-chain future that tokenizes the entire world so AI can easily automate all of that. And it's going to be much more organized for all of this, right? For the fourth industrial revolution to really have full potential with all of this technology. And once everything's automated with IoT and all these machine to machine talking, um, it's going to be a very different landscape, guys. That's what I think. So, like I said, what Klaus Schwab was talking about, he ends up bringing up a book. I forget what the book is called in the video, but he's talking, he shows his book, and it's like this book shows the landscape or the framework for what he thinks or wants the future to look like. And here you have it right here. What sounds more like a project that's going to allow to bring the world online? And this goes into Dominic Williams as well. Dominic Williams with Caffeine AI, he said himself that he wants billions of people to use caffeine. That anybody with a mobile phone and an internet connection can use caffeine. This is his plan. So that sounds like putting the world online to me, because you're going to be connected to the ICP blockchain. And you even have it right here. Look, complex traditional, specifically traditional IT, is impossible to make reliable, and its foundations are vulnerable. And here you have the CrowdStrike IT outages, right? So I know this may sound like I'm just focusing too much on what Klaus Schwab was saying, but the reason I'm pointing to this is because the WEF is part of something larger, obviously, right? Like if they're going to work with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. So I'm sure this is really all a mutual agreement, guys, and there's something very large being orchestrated in the background. And you're not going to be taught that. They're not going to come out and tell you what this really is, right? So, but I don't think Bitcoin hits $120,000 by accident. And I don't think it was retail that's going to do that. And maybe you could argue this wasn't how it was supposed to start off, but that's very telling to me that, just within 2 decades, they decided to adopt this already and really go full throttle with it. So that seems like it's everything, guys. I hope you got some kind of enlightenment from this, even if it was all theory, right? Maybe it sparked something in your brain, and you could further deep dive something that interested you, right? That's really the point of this channel. It's not really to it's not really to inform you to a point where like you're going to be convinced now, but at least you can see where I'm coming from, that I think this is way too convenient that it just happens to be playing out like this, right? I don't think this, it just seems very planned to me. To me, it seems planned. And if you don't see it that way, that's fine. You're going to come to a different conclusion. You're going to make different decisions. But this is why it's so easy for me to just sit back and relax, because I think all of this is inevitable. And I think you're going to see a SpaceX and ICP partnership. You're going to see a lot of partnerships with web, I was going to say Web 2 companies, but that's more like Google and stuff, right? And I do think you're going to see that, obviously. But I mean, ICP already partnered, or they collaborated with Anthropic, one of the largest AI companies to this day, and they used their LLM to help with Caffeine AI, right? So I think this is just this is one of the most controlled narratives and topics in the world. Like, think Jeffrey Epstein, right? Like, just the way that that is controlled with the information being leaked, I think this is also heavily controlled, and a certain narrative is being pushed instead. But the tech will prevail, guys. That's what I believe. I do think this is about tech. I don't believe in the hype of just, you know, shit meme coins. I think that's right now, right? That's the landscape right now for a reason, by design. I really do. I think it's all a distraction, and in the future, you're just gonna have a multi-chain society of utility. there still will be meme coins, right? But it's not gonna be like, it's not gonna be people wondering, is this gonna fail or succeed? It's gonna be accepted as the new system, and kind of like the way that people didn't realize when the internet first came out what it could lead to, like right now on YouTube and all this stuff, and all these apps like TikTok. I think it's the same way with crypto, that you're just seeing one part of the technology, but you don't really know what this is going to open up in the next coming years, especially with AI connecting to this. This is the very beginning. So, thanks for watching, guys, and enjoy the rest of your day or night.